everybody. Welcome back to Wisconsin Weather Experts on this Tuesday. Nice weather here locally, but all eyes are on the tropics today.
Yeah, we are experiencing quite a beautiful late October, almost early November type stretch here at home. We feel very spoiled. Some folks complaining about the breeze, and that's the biggest issue we have for sure. Meanwhile, of course, we are keeping an eye on Category 5 Hurricane Melissa. So let's start there. We continue to follow the track of Hurricane Melissa. It is now making its landfall in Jamaica. Take a look here. Look at this incredible video from the eye of the storm.
Wow.
Now, again, this is making landfall as we speak. I haven't seen the official bulletin from the National Hurricane Center, but we are seeing the eye make its way on shore in western portions of Jamaica. So we'll have that update for you as soon as we get it. Now, the system strengthened to a Category 5 yesterday and has twice strengthened this morning. At last check, we had the significant wind speeds of 185, and yes, as per the recent update, just at the top of the hour from the National Hurricane Center, Category 5 Melissa has made landfall in Jamaica. It is now one of the most powerful hurricane landfalls on record in the Atlantic Basin.
Wow.
An incredible story there. One of the biggest, strongest storms in over a century for the island of Jamaica. Officials ordered mandatory evacuations in flood-prone communities, of course, with buses trying to get people out to the shelters.
And for those bracing for impact, among those is a Milwaukee couple who went there for their honeymoon.
Oh, no.
So these two newlyweds, as you can see, we have Laquan as well as Tiara, a triplet who got married more than a week ago. Then they headed to a resort in Jamaica, unaware of what was in store. Now, we spoke with a couple yesterday as Hurricane Melissa churned towards Jamaica. They say the airline canceled their original flight back home, and with the airport closed, the couple is stuck at their resort. So the triplets say they have exhausted all of their resources, having to extend their trip, and they tell us they just want to get home to their 5 children.
It's very stressful, and I just want to get back to my kids. So that's all I'm thinking about, is getting back to my kids.
I do fear that it's a chance that we don't go back or make it, but I'm trying to take as much precautions as I can as far as making sure that we are safe.
It's just such a scary situation.
Yeah, no doubt.
So the triplets say they have booked a flight for Wednesday. But as we all know, it's probably a wait and see type of event with the fact that all of this is unfolding as we speak. We just talked about how it's officially made landfall, and it's just kind of a waiting game for now.
That's right, and they have a bunch of unexpected costs because, of course, they had to reschedule the flight. Everything's closed. They're looking for some help to cover the cost of the resort. So you can find out how to help them out on the Fox Local app if you're interested. Of course, they're not alone. Our sister station in Orlando talked with another group of trapped tourists. They say they're hunkering down and they're ready for whatever comes their way.
Any medications that we need. We have a change of clothes. We have a pair of pants each. We have our passports in Ziploc bags. We have water.
The locals know what they're doing, and they're making sure everyone's safety is their number one priority.
Of course, multiple groups have been looking for flights off the island, but without any success. And with Melissa's path, of course, now shifting a little bit farther westward, the resort for those tourists there slated to take a direct hit. But as locals and tourists wait for the landfall, or now, of course, are experiencing the landfall, the Central Florida folks are also dealing with an interesting double situation here. One, they're helping out donating supplies and cash to help the island after the storm, but they're also dealing with flooding of their own. But we'll get to that in just a second.
Sure.
We've got an update here, of course, to get to because we now officially have landfall.
Yeah, and I'll just kind of read through what the National Weather Service have in their latest update. Melissa has made landfall in southwestern Jamaica near New Hope with estimated maximum sustained winds of 185 miles per hour and an estimated minimum pressure of 892 millibars. So that's pretty incredible stuff.
Right, and wind gusts in excess of 200.
Exactly.
incredible wind speeds.
Yeah, usually the number of, or the wind speed that we talked about when we talk about hurricanes is the sustained wind, which is, you know, a constant wind.
Right.
But this is a radar image or satellite image of that storm. And as we zoom in, you can tell that the eye, the central part of the eye, making landfall as we speak in southwestern parts of Jamaica. So technically landfall is when the centermost part of the eye actually goes over land. It is still very clear, the eye that is, so that's usually you know, our sign that this is still a really organized and really strong storm. Now as far as what next, clearly the rest of the day this is still going to impact Jamaica. Again, the stats for you there, no changes. 185 mile per hour sustained winds, 220 mile per hour gusts. It's moving north-northeast at about 9 miles per hour. Now this is pretty fascinating though. This storm may actually make landfall overnight tonight again, so a second landfall in Cuba, which is pretty incredible, eastern portions of Cuba. Now it's possible it weakens a little bit, but it may still be a pretty strong Category 4 as it makes landfall later on tonight. And then you'll notice it continues to push up towards the northeast as more of a Category 3, Category 2 storm, but you know, Turks and Caicos and surrounding islands will likely also have impacts from this in the coming days before it really pushes its way up towards the northeast.
And a Category 3 storm, you know, it seems like a down statement from the strong Cat 5 that we have right now. But a Category 3 is still considered a major hurricane, and that's what's going to be pushing through and then weakening eventually as it moves out over the open waters. And there are some models that keep this at a Category 5 as it makes landfall for a second time in Cuba. That would be a pretty rare event to get a double landfall Category 5 storm, and a pretty rare event in Cuba to have a Category 5 direct impact as well. So we'll be continuing to watch this throughout the day.
We will, absolutely.
All right. Well, let's move back a little closer to home. We were talking about Central Florida folks helping out, which is, you got to tip your hat because they're dealing with some weather of their own. Parts of Central Florida saw nearly 20 inches of rain on Sunday. It's almost 2 feet. Left places looking like this. Looks like some sort of Venice version in Florida there, some sort of Venice theme park or something. The hardest hit places were Brevard and Lake counties, the city of Titusville, if you know that from the Space Coast. All of Lake County have now declared states of emergency. The most rain fell in Eustis, Florida, north of Orlando, nearly 20 inches. Titusville did see about 15 inches worth. Flash floods absolutely inundated the area in Mount Dora. That's northwest of Orlando. The damage was devastating. Part of a road was absolutely swallowed up by floodwaters there. In the midst of that is a broken car in the middle of the road there. Broken road, broken car. Now that fell when the street fell, and the woman that was in the car, she had been in it just minutes before, hanging over the edge Sunday night.
You're sitting there, you're just counting minutes, and it's like, you just want the road to hold.
That was Christina Cortez and video she took of how close her car was from the edge of a collapsing road. If you take a closer look, you can see she was right by the edge. She says she was heading home from work when she noticed the road in front of her and next to her was gone. She then texted her boss a pin of her location begging for help. That's when her boss, George Halpern, sprung into action. He told Fox 35 exclusively the only thing he thought of when he got that text was to save her. And that's exactly what he did, trudging through the rushing water to help her. The two were able to make it to safety before the street fully collapsed into the ravine, swallowing Cortez's car. Cortez's mother now calling Halpern an angel. He says now looking back, he can realize how crazy of a situation it truly was. But in the moment, he was fueled with adrenaline.
I started yelling, Christina, get out of the car, get out of the car. She couldn't hear me, or she was just in shock. So I decided, okay, I have to get to the car now. That's when it started getting scarier and sketchier, and I'm just hanging onto these like concrete barriers, walking slowly.
Wow, what a hero indeed. I mean, you saw where the car ended up, so if he hadn't gotten to her before that happened, it would have been absolutely, well, tragic anyway, but even more so.
Oh, absolutely. All right, well, switching gears, an earthquake yesterday shaking neighborhoods in Howard County, Maryland. Probably not one of the spots you think of earthquakes. No. Now, officials say that the epicenter of the 2.5 magnitude quake was in Columbia. Residents we spoke with reported feeling the rattle just after 5 last night. Unfortunately, there were no reports of injuries or damage.
It was like a big boom, so we thought they were just moving things around upstairs.
Just sitting in the living room watching TV, and I heard a boom. I didn't feel the earth shake or anything, or the building shake.
I was at my soccer practice at Athelton High School, and I felt a loud boom, and it like shook the whole like stands. It was really loud. We all got scared.
I would think that would be scary. 2.5, that's it. I mean, not a major quake by grand scheme of things, but for that part of the world, it is.
Exactly. That would be like us getting something like that. We're not used to it.
Right.
We would know something happened.
Yeah, and the loud bang for sure is probably something they didn't associate with the earthquake. So fascinating stories all over the place. But back here at home, still kind of fascinating in that we have an interesting pattern that's keeping us dry.
Yeah, absolutely. We're still in the midst of that blocking pattern, and you can see there's actually rain just west of us in Minnesota and Iowa, but because of where we are and where this blocking high pressure is, all of this is going to continue just to sink southward and move towards the southeast. So here in Wisconsin, we're not expecting much in the way of precipitation for at least the next couple of days. Now, this is one of the more active parts of the United States right now. There is also another system coming in towards the Pacific Northwest and then the Mid-Atlantic dealing with some rain. Also a cold front passing through Florida right now, and that cold front's actually helping us out a little bit. I do think that's going to help steer that hurricane again towards the northeast instead of pushing it closer to the United States. Now, out towards the west a little bit more, you can see that next storm system coming in off of the Pacific, some rain, some snow mix, as well as some high wind across portions of Washington state as well as Oregon. And then to the Midwest, upper to southern plains, you can see plenty of rain into Minnesota and Iowa, Kansas, Oklahoma, over to Arkansas, and now the lower Mississippi Valley. Now there is a large swath of the central United States under some type of wind headline. So those spots that are dealing with these cold fronts and systems, there's a lot of wind that's coming with it too. And now even here in Wisconsin, we have a very blustery day as well, just not quite to the extent as what some of these spots are going to see in the coming days. Again, that wind advisory from far southern Minnesota all the way to the Gulf Coast. So normally these wind advisories are for wind gusts up to 45 or maybe even 50 miles per hour. Now there is also a relatively small area of a severe threat today, mainly eastern Texas over into Louisiana. But you'll notice, I mean, Houston over to western portions of Louisiana under that level 2 slight. So there is the potential for some stronger, even severe weather down towards the south today. And then I know you guys talked about this yesterday. LA and portions of Southern California, potentially some decent heat today. There is a heat advisory through tomorrow. So both today and tomorrow, high temperatures could be in the mid 90s, maybe even upper 90s in a handful of communities. So way warmer than what they should even see throughout this time of year. And even, you know, as you get closer to portions of Arizona and New Mexico and even Texas and Louisiana, you are seeing more of that warmth. Now, LA's high temperature today, not quite as high as what areas just towards the south will see, but Phoenix high temperature right around 93. So yeah, the Southwest going to see some slightly warmer temperatures, we'll say, compared to the rest of us. Look it up towards the north. Most of our high temperatures across the U.S. have settled into the 40s as well as the 50s. Now here specifically in Wisconsin, we'll see some low 50s for high temperatures up towards the north, Rhinelander to Wausau. Better chance to see some upper 50s, Madison to Milwaukee, all the way down to Chicago. But you can see some of that cooler air just towards the west where all of the rain is located. So we're looking out here because of that high pressure, we get the sunshine, and that's allowing temperatures to be pretty normal for this time of year, if not even a little bit above for today. We have a full 6 days of 50s ahead. You'll notice getting closer to the weekend, we'll drop a little bit in the low 50s, which is just a touch below average. But for the most part, this is a very steady weather week for Wisconsin, at least southern parts of the state. Now, going forward, you can see the rain that's out west right now. That's going to continue to fill in towards the south, but really pass just towards the south of us here in Wisconsin. Now, western parts of the state may see a little bit more cloud cover than what those of us in Milwaukee and Lakeshore communities will see, but still dry for your Wednesday, today and Wednesday. Thursday, same story, looking pretty good. It might be Friday that we have just a slight chance to see a few spotty showers late in the day on into early Saturday morning, but not a huge rain chance overall through the next 6 days. Just slight chances for later Friday and maybe over the weekend as well. But that just means the next couple of days we have lovely weather here in Wisconsin. That's the latest look at your regional weather. We're going to take a live look outside right now where again the sun is shining. We have plenty more coming up on Wisconsin Weather Experts. Stay with us. Welcome back, everybody, to Wisconsin Weather Experts, exclusively here on Fox Local, as well as our YouTube page.
Yeah, and we have a lot. When we forecast weather, we always talk about looking at models, but we, thankfully, with the increase of technology, now have new models that can help us out. Yeah. A lot of what we're tracking is in terms of AI, which you may hear, but the AI models are slightly different than our normal ones. Our chief meteorologist, Tom Walks, is going to break down more.
Well, there's been a lot of talk about AI, right? Artificial intelligence and how it's really starting to change how we live. Well, this is also impacting the weather world, and we can directly relate this to Hurricane Melissa, which is impacting the Caribbean. I want to take you, this is what Google DeepMind looks like. This is Google that has created an AI suite of weather computer models here. This is publicly available on the web as well. And I'll step out of the way. This is what it looks like when it comes to Hurricane Melissa. And again, there are a whole bunch of different options you can click and that you can see. But I'm bringing this up because I've noticed now that the National Hurricane Center is starting to reference this a little bit more, which is interesting on several levels. We've been watching these AI computer models now for the last several months as they're really starting to improve, and there are a lot of them, not just Google. Google DeepMind, which again, there's a suite of products called Weather Next that they produce and so on. There's quite a few of them that they produce there. Microsoft Aurora, so Microsoft is doing one. The European model, the AIFS, Pangu Weather is another one. And this one on X, on the platform X, called NATOcast, is actually really interesting. This is an AI tornado computer model that comes out for about the next 24 to 48 hours and will actually try to pinpoint where the greatest risk for tornadoes across the country will be. And I'll tell you, I've talked to a lot of folks at the National Weather Service, and my personal experience with this and our experience is that when we start to see some of these areas light up, for example, around us in the spring and summertime, especially when those numbers start to go up, that sort of reinforces what we are seeing as we're continuing to look at all of the data ourselves. So this brings me back to kind of the question of the day, right? Which is AI completely taking over? In the weather world, no. it is another tool in the toolbox. And that, I'll go back here, that's what we're seeing, for example, with the model, when this is their experimental model, when it comes to Hurricane Melissa. So, you know, is it completely taking over? No, but it is definitely showing promise, and it is definitely adding to that toolbox, not only for us in the television sector of meteorology, but the National Hurricane Center, again, has referenced this as well, as, you know, these AI models are really starting to show promise. And I'll just quickly mention the difference here. You might be thinking, well, what's the difference between an AI computer model and a regular computer model? AI is using neural networks. It's kind of teaching itself based upon current conditions, and it's ingested past trends and all sorts of things, and it's using pattern recognition, which is what we do as well as we're forecasting the weather. We're looking at various patterns and so on. Well, traditional computer models use math and physics as the big backbone when it comes to forecasting the weather farther out. So you're putting in a whole bunch of equations into a supercomputer, and again, those equations simulate the atmosphere as to what's going on, and then each of those traditional computer models will spit out a solution. One might say it's going to be 70 tomorrow, another might say it's going to be 60, and then we as the human meteorologist has to decipher what we think is going to happen and why. Same type of a scenario with AI computer models that are really starting to come to be. It is still a model. It is still not perfect, and it's still far from perfect, but they are showing quite a bit of promise. So that's what I mean by another tool in the toolbox, is that we can use these models, whether it's the traditional models or the AI models, to help us make decisions when it comes to storms like Hurricane Melissa as well. And that can increase or decrease confidence for forecasters, for example, when it comes to hurricanes as well. So there are more tools. No, it's not going to take us over anytime soon, but it is certainly a much better path to provide us with more data that we have to analyze. And again, it's showing quite a bit of promise.
It's such a good tool, right? And Tom makes so many great points that it is open to the public, a lot of these, so you can go and maneuver around yourselves. Again, but you have to take that with a grain of salt, because even these AI models are not perfect.
Right.
You may have noticed online when you search up some things, AI is not 100% correct. And we, of course, are still needed in this industry to kind of fine tune some of the overall projections or forecasts.
Yeah, in the end, I mean, it is still just a simulation. So we all know what Mother Nature does her own thing. So but any extra tools, we will take.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Definitely excited for that. We're going to have a lot more coming up. Outside stuff, it looks so beautiful.
It is.
Fall is here. Go see that fall foliage. We are heading right at that peak mark for most areas. We're going to have more coming up after the break. back to Wisconsin Weather Experts. We've been covering a lot about the hurricane, a lot about some of the leaves changing, AI models, and we're going to stick on that topic of fall, a little lighter note, in terms of leaves changing.
Yeah, the fall season is usually all about color, as we know. We have started to see some great foliage, but it hasn't been a banner year. Rich, Rob, and Emily talk fall foliage on this week's Isobar podcast. Check it out.
I feel like we might be letting the leaf peepers down because I feel like we're just failing to deliver. Is Michigan the same?
Michigan is the same. However, when the sun comes out on those handful of days when the sun is really out, there is still color to see. I mean, perhaps it's not the best year, of the last 20, and I think that's fair to say, but it's not a complete, bust out. I mean, there are still colors to see, and if you go to some of your favorite state parks, especially here in Southeast Michigan, still some wonderful color to see.
I agree with here locally, too.
Yeah.
There is still some good color out there. Now, in case you're wondering, the Isobar is a regional weather podcast with chief meteorologists from Milwaukee, Chicago, and Detroit, and you can find it on YouTube as well as right here on Fox Local.
Well, we're going to talk quickly about a cherished tradition that returns today in Lakeland. The 45th annual Swan Roundup is happening. Parks and Rec staff will be out on the lake, Lake Morton, in fact, to gather the swans by boat for their yearly veterinary checkup. Yes, they need to be checked up too. They'll be weighed and examined before being released back into the lake. The swans' history dates back to over 70 years. So I'm glad that they at least are being checked up on. They get their daily dose of health.
There you go. It's that time of year. Thanks for staying with us for another episode of Wisconsin Weather Experts. We'll see you right back here tomorrow at noon.